Hey there! Before we jump into my review for the first chapter of RWBY Volume 7, here's a big spoiler warning from the get-go. If you haven't seen Chapter 1, then click away now, as this video will contain major spoilers for that episode. Unless you don't care about spoilers like a savage, then stick around I guess. Alright, with that out of the way, let's dive into the greatest kingdom. Atlas wants to be seen as the greatest kingdom, like no one ever was. Funny how the title of the episode is almost a cheeky propaganda plug for the Atlas military. With a runtime of just over 18 minutes, including the brand new opening for the volume, which I will get to, this episode had a lot of work to do in setting up what is easily the most built up location in the lore of RWBY. We've been in Atlas before during Weiss's arc in Volume 4, but the nature of her story back then meant that we only ever saw glimpses of Atlas through the window of the Schnee family manor. Everything else we know about Atlas has either come from the World of Remnant episodes, or in analysing the behaviour and differing opinions of characters, both from Atlas and those with a more Atlas-light experience. So did the episode do what it needed to in setting up Atlas for the volume? Well, yes and no. For starters, the majority of the episode takes place in the lower city of Mantle, which gets the lion's share of exploration and world building. Mantle is by far the best looking city location we've seen in RWBY in terms of the level of detail put into its architecture, background detail, and general ambience. Unlike Mistral, or heck, even early volume Beacon, Mantle feels like a real city, albeit a rather shitty one. You can tell the animation team at RT have learned a lot from their city development in making Season 1 of Genlock. Mantle is reminiscent of a huge number of cyber dystopian locations. The choice of a dirty colour palette and neon lights reminds me of Bioshock's Rapture, and the massive screens broadcasting Elysian military propaganda to the populace below has some heavy Orwellian vibes. Even these little surveillance drones all add to the picture that Mantle is heavily oppressed by those who live above it, and that the city is teetering on the edge of complete civil disobedience. Hence all the security and surveillance. Faunist discrimination is also present in smaller details, with buildings marked with anti-Faunist messages, and then of course an actual racist who is swiftly yeeted. I'm expecting this side of things to only be built up more and more as the volume progresses, with hopefully a much needed trip down to the dust mines for our characters sometime soon. What I really like about Mantle particularly was how little the Atlas military bothered to have any human presence down here. No friendly face for the locals to interact with. All they've got are drones and robotic soldiers, with the only human representation the citizens seeing being Ironwood or Winter on huge screens, reminding them how much the Atlas military cares for the people of Mantle and keeps them safe. Even the ASOPs team we meet at the very end pretty much just drop in and zip out. They couldn't get out of there quicker if they tried. All of this highlights just how cold an approach Atlas military has taken in ruling over Mantle. It's no wonder the place is on a political knife edge. So yes, Mantle worldbuilding so far gets a big thumbs up. There's definitely more to learn about this place, but it's a strong start. How they handle the city of Atlas above or the dust mines below will be an interesting watch. With worldbuilding out of the way, let's look at what is probably my favourite thing about RWBY: character interactions. This is where the episode falls short for me a little, and why I still think Argus Limited from Volume 6 is the best premiere RWBY has ever had. This chapter just doesn't give the characters much time to really interact with each other, although there are still some nice moments, like Yang embarrassing herself after punting the drone to its concrete splattered demise, or Maria being Maria as the no-nonsense voice of reason, and Weiss slowly realising she may not be able to trust the one person in her family she thought she could. Yeah. That's heartbreaking, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Obviously, the biggest moment of the episode was that Penny reveal, which I already know has people divided. I'm of the opinion that Penny coming back isn't a bad thing. Heck, I'd been kind of expecting it with her being a robot and all. It wasn't completely out of the blue. I don't think Penny coming back takes away from the end of Volume 3 either. Pyrrha is still gone after all. Now, maybe if she comes back, we'll have a different talk. But other than that, the impact is still there. What I do have a slight concern with, and I hope that this is going to be resolved in a future chapter, after all this is only chapter 1, is how little we get to see a true emotional reaction from RWBY at Penny's return. It's cut short, and I hope this moment isn't the last we see of Ruby reconciling with her best friend. Ruby's friendship with Penny was one of the better fleshed out relationships in early volumes. It's why her demise always resonated with me more than what happened to Pyrrha, certainly when viewing it through the lens of how Ruby would be impacted by it. Nuts and Bolts shippers rejoice though, your ship has come back from the grave like some kind of spooky ghost ship. That's the lesson here, kids. I guess it's always better to place your bets on an OTP where one of them is a robot so that they can come back Terminator style. Anyway, give Rubes and Penny more time to reconcile their friendship, please and thanks. Also, I have a feeling that getting Penny back means Ruby is going to lose someone else significant in her life. Maria, don't you dare walk into the light, I swear to God. All in all, I think that meaningful character interactions in the squad were kind of put on the chopping board this episode to make way for the level of world building and setup that Atlas and Mantle required. Which I'm honestly okay with as long as we get more downtime in a future episode. Atlas clothes shopping trip episode, when? All the chatter this volume has been about the characters not knowing who to trust. As the opening says, trust love. Chapter 1, including the opening, does a good job of creating a foundation of potential plot threads that could really go in any direction. I'm a slut for political drama, so all this talk of an upcoming election with Papa Shit's knee and Iron Daddy running, as well as this new gal, Robin Hood, has me pretty hype, especially with Watts seemingly scheming away in the background to rig the election in a way that will benefit Salem, and getting his buddy Tyrion to do the dirty groundwork. It's all very enticing stuff, and makes the idea of an Atlas ball full of potential political candidates all plotting against each other all the more exciting. Also, these lads being based on characters from Aesop's Fables? There's some interesting ground to explore there too. If you guys would like to see a separate video of me diving into that lore, then let me know in the comments. And just a few last things before I jump onto a quick section about the opening. Jason has done a fantastic job with Crow. I almost forgot his voice had even changed until about midway through the episode. Yes, he doesn't sound exactly the same, but I'm enjoying his take so far, and Jason has a lot of emotional range to bring to the table too. Part of me wonders if this is what Crow may have sounded like when he was actually sober back in the day. Other little details I really liked. Yang's little anxious leg bounce in the van was a nice extra touch. She's been arrested by the Atlas military before in some pretty grim circumstances, so I can't imagine this was a very pleasant experience. Oh, and everything about Pietro's office. The days since last nonsense counter reminds me a lot of this volume's hiatus. Okay, so now the opening. First off, the song is a bop as per usual. I think I still prefer Volume 6's opening, but that's not to say I don't enjoy this song either. It's really warm in places and has some nice callbacks to lyrics from some of the earlier openings. Speaking of callbacks, these silhouettes, they're very reminiscent of the OG trailers and of course Cowboy Bebop. The Aesops get quite a bit of focus in here, which I'm hoping doesn't translate into screen time. The cast is already very large as is, and taking away focus from our main four and the people around them could jeopardise the chance for some sorely needed interaction between characters like Blake and Ruby. Hopefully the Aesop squad are just meant as a fairly lightweight inclusion in this volume and don't end up eating up interactions that should be happening between the main characters. I also can't help but note that we don't see Salem, Cinder, Neo, Emerald, Hazel or Mercury in this opening. I do wonder if this is the result of a surprise spook much later in the volume, keeping the audience's attention and minds away from this handful of villains until some big reveal or twist later on. Although let's be honest, very few of us can keep Neo out of our minds for too long. Or Emerald. Semblance joke. Certainly it seems like our key antagonists for the volume are Watts, Tyrion, Jacques, Whitley, and I guess to a lesser extent Ironwood and Winter, who are more morally grey at this point in time. Other than that, the opening confirms that the character of Robin Hill is also going to play a major role in the election plotline, with Tyrion and by proxy Watts interfering with their election chances. But to what end, who knows? Anyway, I think that about covers everything. A solid start to the volume with some strong reveals and world building, but lacking in the quality character interactions between our main girls. Argus Limited has not been derailed by the Greatest Kingdom for the best volume opener. If you enjoyed this review, crazy to think this is my first episodic review of RWBY, then please let me know. And of course, if you'd like me to continue to do these for the rest of the volume, subscribe. Until the next chapter, I'll see you on the flip side, which I guess could either be Mantle or Atlas. Bye.